I'm Suzi Landolfi, and welcome to Be Crazy Well. Now, why would a therapist say that? Because we all have mental health struggles, even therapists. The good news is we have so much more information about how we can be crazy well. On my podcast, we don't focus on what's wrong with us. We want to know what happened to us. We're going to explore how trauma affected us, both negatively and positively. That's right. I said positively. It's called post-traumatic growth, and it's a real thing. Be Crazy Well will share mental health wellness practices, the newest mental health research, and most importantly, how we all get to create the person we deserve to be and the life we deserve to live. So join the mental health evolution and be crazy well. Yeah, this is it. This is how I look when I get up in the morning and decide not to comb my hair, which is okay. I don't have to comb my hair. I don't remember that being a part of how I have to take care of myself, that's a requirement. I think it's helpful at times. And I wanted to think about, how was I taught how to treat myself? A lot of people say to me all the time, oh, I have to learn how to love myself. I hear that all the time. Here's one of my ways to love myself. PG Tips tea. Every morning, no matter where I go, carry them with me. And I make sure I have my PG Tips with raw sugar and half. Talk about loving myself. I'm going to carry that tea with me everywhere. And I didn't always know how to love myself. And the reason why I'm bringing this up today, fairly obvious, that love day is right around the corner. 365 days, only one day dedicated to love. Doesn't seem like a good idea, but anyway, at least we get one. And about, I don't know, a couple of years ago, I started to think about the word love. So what happened was I use words. Let's put it that way. I'm a therapist. So obviously there's a lot of words that we use to communicate and help one another. And I realized that I was using a lot of words that I didn't actually know the meaning of. Oh, by the way, I'm Suzi Landolfi. You're listening to Be Crazy Well. And if I'm going to use words, I probably should know the definition. Or at least if I know the definition, is it my definition? That's really important. And I'll tell you a funny story about words. So when I started to think about the meaning of words, how important they are, one of the first words we learn is love. I love you. Mommy loves you. Daddy loves you. I love you. And then we learn other words. And so I said to my grandson one day, he was probably 3, maybe 3.5, very verbal. And I said to him, hey, Logan, by the way, there's a word we don't want to use in our family. Some families use it. We don't want to use it. And it's the S word. And he started to smile and he goes, Chima, you mean shit? And he thought that was so funny. Obviously, he'd heard that word. And I said, no, not that one. Shit's okay. You can say that. The S word I'm talking about is much more hurtful. It's called stupid. And he looked at me and he really thought about it, because the nice thing about children is they're absorbing and they're trying to make sense of what we're saying and doing. And I said, think of how hurtful it is if someone calls you stupid, or you call somebody's idea stupid. And when we call names and we say hurtful things, it's because we're not feeling good about ourselves. So we're going to make sure that we take control of that person or that situation by making them feel less love about themselves. So of course that led to me thinking about the word love. Now I was a bit of a, smarty pants in school. Why? Not because I was smarter than anybody else, But because there was so much chaos going on in my household and it was so dangerous, that school was safe. School was literally safe for me. And I loved going to school. And I remember in English how much I enjoyed reading and writing. And I can remember that throughout the years, they actually kept teaching us how to create sentences with punctuation so they make sense, sentences with the right kind of words so they're not just a phrase, they're a full-on sentence. And the way you distinguish between a full-on sentence and a phrase is one kind of word. And that one kind of word is a verb. And then we were taught the verbs are about something that you do. They're an action, even if it's thinking or feeling, that's still doing something. So I kept thinking about a sentence, and I know that what we need is a subject, we need an object, and you have to have a verb or it's not a sentence. And I was thinking about the sentence that we use all the time and will be using a lot on Tuesday, on Valentine's Day. And the sentence is, I love you. I thought about that for a second. I went, whoa, wait a minute. I is the subject, you is the object. Love is not a feeling, it's a verb. It's a verb. And I mean, I was so struck by that. We're so quick to call things something without really thinking and exploring what it is. And I know you're all sitting there right now going, oh, of course love's a verb. It's a feeling. I love somebody. I feel love. Okay. So what happens when you don't feel love for that person an hour later? Because now you're yelling, calling names, threatening to leave, and maybe even worse. What happened to that feeling? How do you feel something 1 minute and then the next second not? Because of the person doing something. And I thought, well, that's what love is. It's a doing. It's a verb, not an emotion. So people say to me all the time, well, what's the emotion there that I'm feeling? Great question. What do we feel when we say, I love you? And all I could think of was the three primary emotions that we know exist. And when I say primary, basic. And that would be like primary colors. So for instance, I know that when I was a little kid and we had art class or we had crayons at home, that if I only had these three crayons, I could make the colors of most of the other crayons. And those three primary colors are red, yellow, and blue. How do I know that? Because if I put blue and red together, I get purple. If I put red and yellow together, I get orange. And if I put blue and yellow together, I get green. I don't know how to put anything together to make red or blue or yellow. The others, I understand. If I put all of them together, I'll get brown. So anyway, that was sort of a big aha moment for me. So then I thought, well, what if there's three primary emotions? Children don't actually feel what we call emotions. They only have physical sensations. And when a baby's born, they have pleasant and unpleasant. And if something's unpleasant, body will physicalize it. You might see a grimace on their face. You might see crying and hear crying. And then if it's pleasant, there might be some kind of physical reaction. I know we think that if something's pleasant, everybody smiles. That's actually not true either. Let's move forward, though, about these three primary emotions. So we teach children about emotions. We give them the words. And one of the first words we ever say to our child is, I love you. And it must be very confusing for children When we say I love you 1 minute with a big smile on our face, kisses and hugs, and it could be 30 seconds later or less, they left the wet towel on the floor and we're yelling. So our actions are confusing. And I thought about that word love then, about, is that one of the primary emotions? And if you really think about all the emotions on your phone, on your emoji, 3 basic ones pretty much, when put together, kind of like red and blue, make up the other emotions. Those 3 primary emotions for sure are joy, fear, and sadness. Why didn't I say happy? Because happy is subjective. Joy is intrinsic. It is that moment a child starts to put together actions and physical sensations with a word. That when they do something or somebody does something to them, there's now a word that is stronger, or at least denotes something is pleasant. When a child learns to do something that brings them that joy, they oftentimes will hear somebody say, oh, you love to play baseball. Oh, you love to dance. You love to do this. I see that. So we equate that word love with that joy. And then there's fear and sadness. Everybody says, why not anger? Well, that's an interesting question, because we use anger probably more than any of those emotions. And isn't that what we say we're feeling when, after we tell someone we love them and they do something we don't like? And we say, you make me so angry. I'm so angry. So with all of this kind of talk about emotions, joy, fear, and sadness are like red, yellow, and blue. They're the primary emotions. And so I would suggest that when someone is loving you, or you are loving somebody, again, a verb, you feel the emotion of joy. If love then is a verb, how do you describe and what do you do to someone, or what do you want to have done to you in terms of actions? And, when I think about that, people talk about, oh, my love language is this. Well, that's okay, except that now you're telling me that if I don't do that, I don't love you. So now love is based on I have to, like, this is the way it has to be. So my love language is hugs and kisses. Well, what if hugs and kisses were a real problem in my family? What if people used hugs and kisses to be inappropriate or sexually inappropriate? It's going to be really hard for me to give you all the love language that you want, or gifts were a way for love language. I think we're really got to think about these short-term kind of shortcuts about how we want to relate to one another. What if love actually had a definition that we could all at least have the basics for? For instance, kindness, honesty, respect. Respect's one of the most interesting ones to me, for me, and I could always tell the people I love what I mean by that. When somebody doesn't do something I don't like, when they don't care for me, when they are not honest with me, when they are not appreciating me by doing their part. Oh, another verb, doing, like doing their part. What if I could respectfully tell them that I'm sad and scared, that when I have to do all the work around the house, I get sad and scared, that we're not a team. And I feel more fear and sadness than I do joy from your actions. So on the one hand, you say you love me, and on the other hand, when I need help, it's not there. What if I could say those words in a respectful way? What if I could be honest when someone says, did you mail that letter? Not that we mail many letters anymore. How about send that email? And I'm so afraid that you're going to get mad that I lied and say, oh, yeah, I did. And you find out later that I didn't. Do you love me then? And was I acting in a loving way? So now all of a sudden, the person that says, I love you, and they say back, I love you too, there's a chasm. There's a small little tear in that fabric of, oh, I don't know if I trust them. Oh, wait a minute. I love you and I don't trust you? Okay. Thinking about that further, what if I was honest about it and said, I screwed up. I didn't send that email. I was wrong. I'm sorry. How can I make it better? So that idea of honesty being a part of true actions of love seems to me that we then can help create an emotion or more emotion of joy as opposed to fear and sadness. So I don't know that I want to really say all the time I love somebody if I'm not backing it up with my actions, because that's not okay. That to me is not having integrity. Integrity is you say something, you follow through with that action. So it's very interesting to me to constantly check in with myself about how am I loving or not loving myself? Am I doing the same things for me that I do for others? Am I doing for them some of the things that I know create love? Am I being honest with them? Am I, in fact, being respectful? Am I, in fact, being kind? Because even though I'm sad and scared that they're not helping me enough, I don't have the right, at least in my life and my definition of love, I don't have the right to call them names. I don't have the right to use stupid if I say I love somebody. So I get to check myself all the time. And I get to really look at the people who say they love me. I get to look and go, wait a minute. They say I love you and then call me names, threaten to hit me, threaten to leave, try to be a dictatorship, and women or men can be a dictator. And there's lots of behavior that has nothing to do with my definition of love. Taking it even a step further, I'm not treating myself in a loving way. There's a great quote about how you're more apt to lie to yourself than you are other people. I was great at it. And I learned to lie to myself because I didn't love myself, because I was raised on the word stupid from my father. And so my internal dialogue, the way I speak to myself, the way I treat myself long ago had nothing to do with the verb love. And people, I was just facilitating a group. I work at a treatment center, and about 3 or 4 people wrote down, we were talking about goals. I got to learn to love myself. Well, learn usually means that you have to do something over and over again in order to be able to accomplish it or master it. And I get so scared when people say, I got to learn to love myself, because I'm thinking they're waiting for a feeling. They're kind of waiting, or they're just trying to think their way into love. I'll just think myself more loving. For some people that might be easy. I can't do that. I have to act. I have to literally do something that is loving towards me, around me, in my life, in order for me to be able to feel the joy that I deserve. I deserve to look at myself and go, you know what? So I see my hair fly back and forth. I'm like, okay, I love myself today because I didn't comb my hair. Loving for me. That's my definition. I don't always have to look perfect. I don't always have to be able to create an image of myself to love me. I should be able to love myself and be respectful and kind and caring and honest with myself. And that's going to be able to bring me the feeling, the emotion of more joy, that I can be joyous within myself, towards myself, for myself. And what I liked about me learning and acting loving towards myself, people that weren't loving me didn't like hanging around me as much anymore. It's really an interesting concept that all of a sudden, all those people that are actually trying to, I don't know, get something from me, use me in a way that is very hurtful. When I started to love myself, respect myself, set boundaries, and not allow people to do some of the things to me that I know are not loving, excuse me, they left, or I asked them to leave. I also noticed that when somebody that I absolutely care about, I'm honest with, and I respect, my definition of love, when I do love somebody and they have done something, 18-year-old grandson can only imagine what the bathroom looks like. And when that's not actually cared for, and now I am kind of anxious about it not being in such a great way, I know that when I tell him what I need, how we need to work together, what it is that makes me sad and scared when we don't work together, I'm still treating him with love. I'm holding boundaries. I'm speaking up. I might even have to say, look, that bathroom has to stay in some kind of decent order, or we're going to have to figure something else out. I don't know what that is, but there is a symbiotic relationship here that I want to have happen where we help each other. And then all of a sudden we've moved into another part of love, which is holding boundaries, which is like finding a way to be able to fulfill the definition through action of the word love. I know what love isn't because I experienced it. It is not, it definitely does not include yelling, calling names, threatening, hitting, in any way holding people hostage, putting people down, any kind of ism, racism, homophobia, sexism, you name it, anything of that action. Those actions are not love. And the worst thing we can do to one another is create a space between us, a relationship between us that is so hypocritical that it builds up the fear and sadness inside of us so much that we then start to lose or lessen our mental and emotional and physical well-being. When we treat people in a contradictory way from that word love, we know that it can cause all kinds of physical ailments. There was a study done about breast cancer. We couldn't understand why some women and men get breast cancer. And one of the factors that was discovered when they started to interview these women was that too many of those women, a statistical number of women, lived with a partner, male or female, that kept giving them the message that they weren't good enough, especially not good enough compared to other people they were either flirting with or cheating with or comparing their partner to. I mean, think about that. So I would ask us all on this coming of Valentine's Day, this day devoted to love and loving, that we deserve, absolutely deserve, to have a definition of our behavior, our loving behavior, the negotiables and the non-negotiables in terms of our behavior, and see if we can get the people who we say that to agree that there are boundaries in our actions and a definition of action when I say, I love you, or if you say, you love me. It's all a verb. Love is a verb. It's always been a verb. It's not an emotion. Joy. Joy is the emotion of being loved and loving. So on this day of love, I hope you will see this day as the beginning of a year, every day of love, as we practice. That's what we get good at. We practice how to be more loving toward ourselves first and towards others. If we can do it to ourselves, which is the hardest, we can then, it's much easier then to do it with others. We will empathize. We will be compassionate. We will be respectful. We will be honest. We will be kind, and we will be caring, and we'll be firm. It's okay to be firm. That is a part of loving. Hold those boundaries. Say what you mean what you say. Don't say it mean. And make sure that your actions are based on principles that really support the verb love. All right, everybody, be crazy well. Be crazy in love, because you are, when you're in love, you are in the action of caring and being honest and respectful. Live in those actions. And I promise you, we'll all actually become more crazy well. That would be a great thing for all of us. All right, I'm going back to my tea, my PG tips. I just love that tea. It brings me joy. All right, everybody. Take care. See you next week.